We're back with our 8 freshman members, and more importantly, our panel of average Americans. Just by show of hands, how many of you are middle class? Raise your hands. Okay, it looks like all of you. 2 more questions. How many of you would say overall you're better off than your parents when they were your age? Who feels better off than their parents? Okay, let's say 3/4 of you. Now tell me the truth. How many of you believe your kids or the next generation will be better off than you when they get to be your age? Raise your hands. 1 person. What's wrong? We should be celebrating in America. Only 1 person is optimistic for the future.
Well, I think this is basically a snapshot of America. I think people are frustrated because we have this, what I'll call is the American compact, where each and every one of us wants to leave a country better for the next generation than we receive from our parents and grandparents. And frankly, I'm terrified that we may be the first generation of Americans that don't do that. And so when I decided to run for Congress, I've got a 10-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a 5-year-old. And I didn't run to be a congressman. I came to do something and to get things accomplished. And as a business owner, let me just tell you, when there's a problem at the business, I gather people around the table and say, what is the problem? And more importantly, what's the solution? And I think we in Washington, and Washington right now that is broken, which is why we're here to fix it, we need to put people before politics and progress before partisanship. Because, Aaron, you and I could sit down together, and I guarantee we can find things that we disagree about, but I'm sure that if we focus on the areas that we agree, that's where we're going to move things forward.
So let me ask you, is it America? And I'll go to you guys next, but is it Congress? Is it politics that's broken? Or is America broken? Okay, so how many of you say politics is broken? Okay, so we've isolated it to politics. Are they the problem, or are they the solution?
First of all, I would agree with you. It is politics, but I have 6 children, and we came here to fix a $16 trillion debt, right? We put out a budget. Do you guys all agree with the budget that we put out, the House Republicans? Raise your hand if you agree with it. The rest of you then disagree with it. And so I'd ask you, if you're going to have some kind of compromise, some kind of solution, and the president doesn't put out a budget that actually balances, how do we negotiate? If the Senate doesn't put out a budget for 3 years, how can we do our job? We can't do our job unless we have people on the other side of the aisle who are willing to put out their ideas, and then Republicans and Democrats can fight, argue, debate, come together with an American solution. But if the Democrats aren't doing their job in the Senate and the White House, we can't get a resolution to a very serious problem.
Is that fair?
It is fair for the budget, but my question is, polarization isn't a phenomenon. It is the decisions of individuals, individual members. And so if you're going to work with the other side, can you give us an example of where you think the other side is actually right and your party might not be on the right side?
Well, first of all, I do think that there's an opportunity for Republicans and Democrats to come together. Selling property, selling off a lot of our waste that we have. We have a bill that is in the Senate now. The Senate has a companion bill. Just this week, we have a bill on Veterans Jobs to Skills Act to get our veterans to work. There are things that Republicans and Democrats can agree on. We just have to have the leadership to be able to come between the both houses and have a president that says, I want that bill, send it to me.
Is that legitimate? Is that fair?
Yes.
You wanted to ask a question.
I want to ask a question because the Republicans like to say that they have solutions, and Speaker Boehner likes to brag that there are 28 jobs bills. But where are the Republicans that are bringing this message? Where are they enunciating this message? I haven't heard one Republican talk about one of those 28 jobs bills. Why aren't you talking about it?
I think I'm one of them. For example, I do a tremendous amount of media and a lot of messaging. Jobs Act that passed, we worked very hard on it. I just sponsored Startup Act 2.0, which is a great opportunity to keep the talent that we desperately need right here in America, something I'm very proud of. But I think there's something we're missing here in this message. The world has changed. We're in a world of sound bites where 30 seconds and the most demagoguery that goes on is what makes the news. And you don't see it when I'm working across the aisle with all my Democratic colleagues in New York on issues that make sense for the state. What you hear is just the polarization. So media has a big play in this as well.
Actually, and you come from one of the most bipartisan districts in America.
Almost everything I've done to date has been with bipartisan support. But let me just talk about these jobs bills, because we have been trying to talk about the jobs bills. And what I'll say is that almost all of those bills came with bipartisan support. In fact, some out of the Financial Services Committee, of which a few of us sit on the Financial Services Committee, passed with over 400 votes. Wildly bipartisan, and yet they went over to the Senate and sat.
Did you know this? Yes or no? Because they're in Washington.
The media sells by the discourse. The media doesn't promote the fact that, and I worked on those bills in the Financial Services Committee, over 400 votes of bipartisan votes. That's not what they're picking up. That's not what's selling media right now.
So how can you get through to them?
Well, we need to just continue to make our message heard, certainly back home, and through new social media we do that. But I passed a Small Business Credit Act with over 2/3 support from the House, and so far it's not going anywhere in the Senate. We have passed jobs bills. I'm on the Armed Services Committee, and certainly our national defense is an area that we need to come together on, and we need to stop this sequestration. So I'm hopeful that the Senate will act.
So let me ask you, how many of you are optimistic about the future of America? Raise your hands. A tiny percentage. And by the way, we're not the Queen of England here. You either are or you aren't. How many of you are optimistic about the future of America? We sit among this great art here. I don't know if you saw this. It's from the artist Steve Penley. It's brilliant. And you look at this, and this represents America. One of the great challenges is for you all to find a way to capture that optimism and the work that you're doing and relate it to you all. Because in the end, this country is only free and only independent if you're engaged, you're involved, and we have some sort of communication between our elected officials and our citizens. I hope you had a great 4th. I want to thank the members of Congress for participating. Please give them a hand. And thank you for watching.